Hello again, this is Andy Nicol, the course tutor for the Perfectly Spoken Advanced course. And in this lesson, lesson 59, which is the penultimate lesson of this course, we'll be looking at the vocabulary area of fears and phobias. As always, this is a level C1 in terms of the Common European Framework lesson, and more or less equivalent to IELTS 7.5 if you're more familiar with IELTS. So essentially an advanced lesson. Okay, so in this lesson we're going to be looking at the following: different types of fears and phobias, and also idiomatic expressions related to fears and phobias. So let's start with some of the phobias. Some of the most common phobias, the top 10 if you like, and if we can match the phobias with their definition. So first of all, you've got agoraphobia, ophidiophobia, aerophobia, trypophobia, arachnophobia, claustrophobia, cynophobia, astrophobia, acrophobia, and mesophobia. Okay, so agoraphobia. From the list, we have fear of heights, fear of enclosed spaces, fear of needles, fear of dogs, fear of storms, thunder and lightning, fear of germs or bacteria, fear of open spaces, the outside, and so on, fear of spiders, fear of snakes, and fear of flying. So the first one, agoraphobia, is G, a fear of open spaces. People who often suffer from agoraphobia are afraid to leave their homes, they stay inside, etc. What do we think about ophidiophobia? This is another very common phobia. Fortunately, these people don't have to confront their phobia quite so often. But I personally don't like them very much. It's a fear of snakes, ophidiophobia. As always, pause the recording if you want a bit of time to think about things. Number 3, aerophobia. From the list, what do we think that aerophobia is? It's a fairly quite an obvious one. Is a fear of flying. Many people can go into a panic before they get on a plane, have to be sedated, etc. Number 4, trypophobia. Trypophobia, again, something that I'm a little bit frightened of, is needles, injections, when you have to go to the doctor to them to take blood, etc. Trypophobia, fear of needles. Number 5, arachnophobia, very famously made into quite a terrible movie, but anyway, again, something that a lot of people are afraid of. I personally, unless it's the big hairy ones, I'm not particularly afraid of them. Spiders, fear of spiders. Anybody who's seen the Lord of the Rings? The Shelob, the giant spider at the end. Very frightening. Arachnophobia, fear of spiders. Number 6, claustrophobia. This is essentially the opposite of agoraphobia, number 1. And this is a fear of enclosed spaces, of small enclosed spaces. Uma Thurman, the actress in Kill Bill, was put in a coffin under the ground, and she actually suffers from claustrophobia, so it was quite a traumatic experience for her. Claustrophobia. Cynophobia, number 7, something I used to suffer from personally, but not anymore, is a fear of dogs. Yes, when I was about 5, I was chased along the road by a Doberman, and a car hit me. Fortunately, it was travelling very slowly and I wasn't particularly injured, But I did have a fear of dogs for a very long time after that. But the last 10 or so years, I've overcome my fear, and I actually have had several dogs as pets since then. Okay, cynophobia, fear of dogs. Astrophobia, what do we think is astrophobia? Again, the clues in the name. This is, in fact, a fear of thunder and lightning, a fear of electrical storms and so on. People hiding under their beds when the storm's overhead, etc. Astrophobia. Number 9, acrophobia. Acrophobia is a fear of heights. If you go to the top of the, I don't know, the Empire State Building, or in Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, it might not be a good idea to look down, certainly not if you suffer from acrophobia. And lastly, the last phobia we have here, mesophobia, is obviously F, a fear of germs and bacteria. Sometimes people get a bit of a sort of obsessive compulsive behavior and clean everything because they're so frightened of germs and bacteria. Okay, moving on. We'll have some sentences here. Try to guess what the missing word or words are. It may be the phobia name itself or what the phobia is a fear of. So, got a woman there being startled by a spider. A singer Justin Timberlake suffers from arachnophobia. He can't be in the same room as a, well, obviously, spider. Arachnophobia, fear of spiders. Number 2, my colleague has blank. She never uses a lift and always takes the stairs. So he or she has a fear of, in this case, she has a fear of small enclosed spaces. And this is, of course, claustrophobia. Claustrophobia is one of the phobias which is commonly talked about and used. Number 3, I always remember B.A. Baracus from the series The A-Team being afraid of something. Suffering from aerophobia meant that he had to be unconscious before his teammates could put him on a plane. This is a 1980s classic film, I think recently made into a film as well, with the theme tune, do, very famous show. And of course, B.A. Baracus, if he had to be unconscious before they could put him onto a plane, he was afraid of flying. Aerophobia, a fear of flying. Number 4, acrophobia, a fear of something, means that you couldn't climb up the Eiffel Tower, for example. So if you have acrophobia, you have a fear of heights. For example, the Eiffel Tower. Number 5, apparently Madonna suffers from astrophobia. During an electrical storm, the sound of something scares the wits out of her, terrifies her. Well, the sound of a storm is, of course, thunder. So she has astrophobia, she's afraid of storms. The sound of thunder scares the wits out of her. Okay, here's some more. There's quite a scary looking sight, fangs of a snake. I've always had ophibiophobia, the fear of snakes. Even a picture of a cobra, for example, will send me into a panic. Fear of snakes, ophidiophobia. Number 2, I've got trypophobia. I hate going to the doctors because just the sight of a blank will cause me to faint. Well, what do doctors use to give you an injection? A needle. A needle. Also, incidentally, what you use to sew when you're making clothes, dresses, etc. You use a needle as well, needle and thread. And a needle is used for an injection. Trypophobia, fear of needles. Number 3, many people who suffer from blank, the fear of open spaces, are afraid to leave their own home. So as I said, kind of like almost the opposite of claustrophobia, fear of open spaces, afraid to leave your house. Agoraphobia, agoraphobia. I've had something, a fear of dogs, ever since a Rottweiler chased me up the road after school. A fear of dogs is cynophobia, cynophobia. Number 5, people with mysophobia are so frightened of blank that they often continuously wash their hands. Fear of germs or bacteria. Okay, very good. So, we have lots of expressions in English related to fear or using fear in them, these idiomatic expressions, and we're going to have a look at some of these now, okay? So, in this exercise, I'd like you to match the expressions with their definitions. As always, please pause the recording if you need time to think. So, the first one is to scare somebody out of their wits or to scare the daylights out of somebody. The expression no fear, without fear or favour, number 3. Number 4, to be in fear for your life. And number 5, to fear the worst. And the definitions we have are A, to worry or expect that the worst possible outcome will happen. B, free to act impartially, having no external pressure or influence, basically being able to come to your own decisions without being influenced by anyone else. C, absolutely not, no way, under no circumstances. D, to believe that there is a serious threat to your safety. And E, to terrify someone, often deliberately. So the first one, to scare the wits out of someone or to scare the daylights out of somebody, pause the recording if you need time to think, is E, to terrify someone, often deliberately. Number 2, the expression no fear. No fear means absolutely not, no way, under no circumstances, no fear. We're going to look at some examples of these expressions in context. Number 3, the expression without fear or favour is B, being able to act impartially, not to be under influence or pressure from someone else. Number 4, to be in fear for your life means to believe that there is a serious threat to your safety. D, to be in fear for your life. Or perhaps you have witnessed a crime and you're scared that the criminals might want to get you, or for whatever reason. To be a politician might be in fear of their life because they're unpopular or whatever. And then finally, number 5, to fear the worst, to worry or expect that the worst possible outcome will happen. Be a bit pessimistic in a way. Okay, so some examples and complete the sentences. Whatever you do, don't tell Jenny we're organising a surprise party. And B says, something, my lips are sealed. I'm not going to say anything. Under no circumstances will I tell her. And the expression is, of course, no fear. My lips are sealed. Number 2. The politician has been living blank. She has received numerous death threats recently. So people have been sending her messages on social media or whatever, threatening her life. And she's been living in fear for her life. In fear for her life. Number 3. We might not come bottom of the league, but I think we should expect that might happen. I fear the worst. I fear the worst. Number 4. Never jump out on me like that again. You absolutely terrified me, etc. You scared me out of my wits or scared the daylights out of me. Okay, you've got more than one option here. Number 5, I'm sure the judge in the trial will be completely impartial. He or she, well, in this case, he, will come to a decision without other people influencing him or putting pressure on him. We can expect him to make his decisions without fear or favour. Without fear or favour. Okay, let's have a look at some more expressions and their definitions. To be in a cold sweat, for fear of something, to be afraid of your own shadow, to have the heebie-jeebies, and to shake like a leaf. And we've got the options: to be in a state of apprehension, anxiety, or nervousness, to be afraid of something happening and acting to avoid this, to be trembling due to fear or nervousness, to perspire a lot due to fear or anxiety, or to be frightened very easily. So the first one, to be in a cold sweat, you're very nervous and anxious and your body starts to sweat, is to perspire a lot due to fear or anxiety. Again, we'll see some examples of these in context in a minute. For fear of something, if you do something or act for fear of something, is B, to be afraid of something happening and act to avoid this from happening. You basically did something in case something bad happens, for fear of something. Number 3, to be afraid of your own shadow, is E, to be frightened very easily. Someone who's afraid of their own shadow is easily frightened. Number 4, to have the heebie-jeebies, is A, to be a state of apprehension, anxiety, or nervousness. And lastly, to shake like a leaf is to be trembling due to fear or nervousness. Okay, let's look at some examples. The man there has been mangled in a crash. And the sentence says, I didn't tell Dave about the accident. I didn't tell him in case he got upset. So you do something to avoid something bad happening is for fear of upsetting. I didn't tell Dave about the accident for fear of upsetting him. I didn't want him to get upset, so I avoided telling him about it. Okay. Next one. After a nightmare, I often wake up you're perspiring because you've had a very frightening, a very bad dream. So you're in a cold sweat, Number 8, I don't think the new manager will last long. I think he'll leave soon. He's afraid of blank. The workers will make mincemeat out of him. Okay, so he's easily frightened. He's not very confident in himself. He's afraid of his own shadow. Number 9, our neighbour is really creepy looking. He makes me feel really anxious and nervous. He gives me the heebie-jeebies. Originally an American expression, but it is used in British English these days as well. Number 10, I can't stop my hands trembling. If you're trembling, you are shaking like a leaf. I've been shaking like a leaf since my house got burgled, since someone entered my house and stole from my house. I've been shaking like a leaf. Okay, so in the next lesson, we'll be looking at, it will be a review lesson of the last lesson 60, obviously. Review lessons of lessons 56 to 59, and this is the 12th of the review lessons. So I hope that you can tune into this broadcast, and we will practice what we've done in this lesson and the previous 3 lessons. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you found this lesson interesting and useful. And don't don't get too scared of spiders and what have you, things that go bump in the night. Take care and bye-bye for now.